Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at source material that it doesn't just describe a crisis in India, it really confronts it head on.
Head on is right.
We're talking about sources that label the violence against women, specifically sexual violence, as nothing short of a pandemic-level disaster. But the really startling part, it's the solution they propose. A blueprint for a complete, centralized, almost military-style government overhaul to tackle it.
It's a very dramatic framing, certainly. But, the data they cite really underscores the severity. If you look at the basic numbers from India's National Crime Records Bureau, the NCRB, it's immediately alarming. For 2020, they reported 371,503 crimes against women and girls.
That's a staggering number already.
It is. But what these sources really hammer home is that this huge figure, it's almost certainly just, a fraction of what's actually happening. So much goes unreported or it gets lost in systemic failures.
Right. Okay, let's unpack that. So our mission today really is to understand just how deep this failure goes culturally, institutionally, and then really get into the specifics of this, well, pretty extreme strategy they're proposing.
The Rape Prevention and Mitigation Army, the RPMA.
Exactly, the RPMA. This isn't just tinkering with laws. It sounds like a proposed declaration of war built around 5 key pillars. We need to analyze those. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. It connects the societal problem directly to the data. The sources basically say if a society sees women as just a commodity.
Like property.
Yeah, or just subservient, then that society is, well, it's basically set up to create violence. And it undermines itself in the long run.
And they argue that respecting women isn't just, the right thing to do morally.
Right.
It's presented as the fundamental test for whether a society can actually succeed. And to grasp why that societal failure is so critical, you have to look at the sheer scale, the frequency. I mean, the sources point out, just do a simple global search for rape in India. You get back something like, what, nearly 500,000 results? It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And maybe more painfully, they calculate, based on the reported cases in 2020, that's 28,153, that a woman's dignity is violated, on average, every 18 minutes in India.
Every 18 minutes.
Yeah. That kind of constant grinding frequency, it just shows the current system isn't working as any kind of deterrent at all.
And the impact isn't just in that moment, is it? The sources talk about damage that lasts forever.
Absolutely.
It's not just the immediate personal trauma, which is horrific enough. It's the lasting professional damage, the economic destruction.
Yeah.
It ripples out, affects families, entire communities. The analysis estimates this ongoing violence has cost, what did they say, tens of crores of rupees in GDP over the last couple of decades.
That's the figure they use.
Yeah.
Which, for our listeners globally, that translates roughly to hundreds of millions of US dollars.
Yeah.
Just gone. Lost potential, lost stability.
Because people's lives and careers are completely derailed.
Exactly. And understanding why that injury is so permanent is key to seeing why they demand such urgent action.
Okay.
The sources bring up experts like Dr. Christine Blasey-Ford. She explained how trauma physically changes the brain.
Right, I remember that testimony.
Well, they apply that here. When severe trauma happens, your brain floods with chemicals like norepinephrine, epinephrine.
Stress hormones.
Right. And these chemicals essentially, well, they burn the memory into your hippocampus, the brain's emotional memory center. That makes the psychological damage deep, lasting, permanent.
Okay, so if the injury itself is permanent, biologically permanent, then waiting 5 years for justice, like we saw in that big Delhi gang rape case from 2012.
Unacceptable.
Which is compounding the trauma, right? And they did change laws after that case, didn't they? Prison terms got longer.
They did. Sentences were increased, I believe, doubled in some instances.
But the problem didn't go away. So what gives? Why isn't the system we have now actually deterring this?
Well, the sources point to sort of a trifecta of failure: inefficiency, delay, and impunity.
Okay.
So yes, the perpetrators in that Delhi case were eventually convicted, executed even, but it took 5 years. 5 years for the victim's family to see justice.
5 years?
And during that exact same 5-year period, the sources state over 175,000 new rape cases were reported across India.
175,000, while that one case was dragging on.
Exactly. And the fast-track courts, the ones supposed to speed things up, they're completely swamped. In 2017, for example, they managed to clear about 18,300 cases.
Which sounds like a lot until
you hear that over 127,800 cases were still pending, just piling up.
The sheer delay is mind-boggling. But the sources argue it's more than just inefficiency, right? It's about integrity.
That's a huge part of it. They argue that political influence, deep-seated local biases related to caste, religion, sometimes just raw political power, plus bureaucratic red tape. They routinely undermine investigations. They compromise prosecutions at the state and local levels.
So it's being blocked locally.
That's the assertion. They point to cases like Kuldeep Singh Sengar. He was a powerful politician, a member of the Legislative Assembly.
Right, convicted of rape and murder eventually.
Yes, eventually. But his case became a prime example of how someone with that kind of local clout could allegedly delay things, manipulate police, even threaten the victim's family. It seemed to show that local systems just couldn't stand up to powerful interests.
And that systemic failure, that corruption, that's the justification for demanding federal intervention, taking it out of local hands.
Precisely. That's the core argument for why the RPMA proposal insists on central control.
And we still see this demand for accountability playing out, don't we? Even recently, like that case cited from October 2025, the Durgapur gang rape of a medical student in West Bengal.
Yes, that led to significant public protests, political fallout, accusations flying between parties about the state government's failure to ensure safety.
So regardless of who's in power locally, the failure to get justice seems to persist, which reinforces the argument that local accountability just isn't working.
And this is why the sources say, look, we need a fundamental shift, a pivot.
Right.
They declare rape a pandemic-level disaster or sometimes a socio-medico disaster. And they argue if it's a disaster on that scale, you need wartime measures.
Like responding to a natural disaster.
Exactly, like a flood, a cyclone, an Ebola outbreak. The government would step in immediately, centrally. So the institutional answer they propose is this RPMA, the Rape Prevention and Mitigation Army.
And the idea is that this structure has to overcome that the cultural impunity we talked about, the idea that perpetrators feel protected.
Yes. The analysis suggests that only an immediate, unavoidable, and frankly painful consequence delivered swiftly can actually challenge those cultural norms that currently shield abusers.
Okay, so how does it work? What are the big shifts?
There are two main institutional changes designed to bypass those local failures. First, make rape a federal crime.
Taking it out of state jurisdiction entirely.
Right. Elevating it means uniform, immediate treatment everywhere in the country. It stops local players from using, state-level politics or biases based on caste or religion to interfere with or slow down investigations.
Okay, that's number one, federal crime. What's the second shift?
A centralized response system. This means setting up a real-time central database. A report comes in anywhere in India, and boom, the RPMA teams are alerted instantly.
Wow, okay.
The blueprint insists the central government must intervene immediately, like it's deploying disaster relief. The whole point is to cut out local political delays, corruption, or just plain indifference.
And the response time itself?
Aggressive is the word. The mandate is. RPMA team intervenes within 24 hours, maybe even sooner.
24 hours.
Yes. And the crime itself, investigated immediately as a capital crime.
A capital offense.
Yes. And they even get specific about preventing loopholes, like defining juvenile status strictly. They suggest anyone who's had their 12th birthday is treated as an adult in this context, to stop people allegedly fudging birth records to protect perpetrators.
Okay, wow. Declaring rape a federal capital crime, handing investigation and prosecution to a new quasi-military federal body. That's a massive shift in power, a huge centralization. How do the sources address the risk that comes with that? Institutional overreach, potential for abuse within this new system.
That's definitely a critical question. And the sources try to build in checks and balances.
Yeah.
But first, they justify the centralization by focusing on speed, resources, and impartiality.
Okay.
The RPMA is designed to be mobile, diverse. Teams are multidisciplinary. You've got defense force judges, civilian judges, vetted social activists, academics, and crucially, they have to be impartial. Team members can't be from the same state as the victim or the accused.
Geographic diversity to ensure impartiality. Makes sense.
Right. No local ties, no potential conflicts of interest.
So it really is like mobilizing an army. How big is this initial force supposed to be? How do they actually do this?
The initial plan outlines a core force of 207 members. That's designed to provide coverage across 23 states and union territories.
And resources to ensure that speed.
This is where the wartime funds come in. The proposal demands dedicated funding for, get this, 2 military or disaster-style aircraft, fully equipped for forensic investigation, medical support.
Flying crime labs, basically.
Sort of, yeah. And also 3 to 5 dedicated helicopters for rapid deployment, especially to remote areas.
Okay. And what about protecting everyone involved, the judges, the investigators, the victims?
That's a major component, presented as both security and a deterrent.
A deterrent? How so?
They propose allocating 500 personnel from central forces like the CRPF, the Army,
Right.
commandos specifically to guard the judges, the investigators, and crucially, the victims' families.
500 personnel.
Yes. The idea is that this heavy, visible protection sends a clear message. The state is deadly serious, and any attempt to threaten or intimidate witnesses or officials will be met with overwhelming force. It has to look like an impenetrable shield.
Okay, let's move to the trials themselves, the wartime trials. This is supposed to be the antidote to those 5-year delays, right? Delivering justice fast enough to counter the permanent trauma. What are the rules here?
Extremely strict and very victim-centric in their design. First, the trial courts have to be physically set up within 25 kilometers of the victim's home.
Why that specific distance?
Accessibility, to drastically reduce the burden on the victim and their family. Less travel, less time off work, less fear associated with going into possibly hostile territory far from home.
Okay, makes sense. And the timing.
Ruthless, as you said. Trial must start within 7 days of the crime being reported or the suspect being caught. No later than 15 days. That's the absolute deadline.
7 to 15 days, compared to 5 years.
Exactly. And perpetrators. Detained immediately. No bail.
No bail.
No bail. And to ensure integrity within this super fast process, the trial team members themselves are vetted heavily.
Yeah.
No connections, direct or indirect, family, alumni network, business ties, nothing connecting them to the victim or the accused.
Total detachment.
Total detachment. And the structure allows for scale. Each RPMA trial team, 9 members, is designed to handle 1 case, but they envision enough teams to handle 23 cases simultaneously across the country. Plus, they'd be authorized to take over that massive backlog of existing pending cases.
Right, the 127,000 plus pending cases you mentioned. Okay, we talked about centralization being key to avoiding local corruption, but concentrating so much power, so much speed in one federal body, the potential for that body to become corrupt or abusive seems, well, significant. What's the check? What's the oversight?
This is the final piece, and maybe the most critical, the Oversight RPMA, or OSRPMA.
Okay, another acronym.
Yeah, sorry. But this one's important. It's designed as a covert oversight body.
Covert.
Yes. Made up of people from civil society, government, the Army.
Yeah.
Their job is to observe RPMA proceedings anonymously. Blend in, watch, ensure procedures are followed, ensure integrity.
So internal affairs, but undercover.
Sort of, yes. And they report their findings directly, and only, to the Home Minister's office. But here's the transparency part. Those OSRPMA reports must be made public through the Right to Information Act 6 months after they're submitted.
Ah, so there's delayed public accountability.
Exactly. It aims to balance the need for operational secrecy during investigations with eventual public transparency.
So this deep dive, I mean, we've really charted a course from understanding a devastating failure, institutional, cultural, to analyzing a proposed solution that is, frankly, radical, a complete system replacement.
That really is the core conclusion from these sources, yes.
Yeah.
They frame rape as an ongoing disaster that demands an immediate, massive, centralized response. Something powerful enough to just cut through decades of bureaucratic delays, political interference, and the sheer backlog in the justice system.
Right.
The whole RPMA framework is built on the argument that only this kind of crisis response mode delivering speed, integrity, transparency can actually change the outcomes on the ground.
We've definitely seen the data, the arguments presented in the sources, showing how the current system's failures allow this crisis to just continue, creating permanent damage for victims. And the core idea of the RPMA is mobilization hitting the problem with speed, resources, like a literal war. But it leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? And this is something for you, the listener, to really chew on. This plan focuses heavily on institutional change, on enforcement, consequences. But can that alone, even if it's incredibly fast and well-funded, truly fix the underlying culture that allows women to be seen as commodities in the first place?
That's the deep question.
Yeah. What other changes, what fundamental shifts in society itself, beyond just laws and enforcement, are really needed to guarantee dignity, safety, and make sure future generations don't need a wartime strategy just for basic human respect?